Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Jump In Podcast. I'm your host, John Thomas, and excited for this next episode to share with all of you. You know, it's been an exciting week for us here in Philadelphia. You know, those of you that have listened to the original episode, you know that part of who I am is a Philadelphia fan. And I'm a fan of all sports, all sports teams here in Philadelphia. And right now, of course, you know, it's National Football League. The Philadelphia Eagles are one of the top teams. We're vying for a chance to go to the Super Bowl, which is the ultimate championship. And right now, we just taken out the Green Bay Packers. It was a pretty tough game to watch, you know, when you know that your team has the potential to do so much and be so explosive, and they just weren't, you know, but they did what they needed to do, and they kept the main thing, as quarterback Jalen Hurts always says, is win the football game, and that's what's important now. So for me, as a fan watching, you know, it was great to see the players do what they do, knowing that they had everything on the line and they played smart. They played hard. The defense, number one in the nation, came with it. Allowed just 10 points throughout the game and did everything they needed to do to keep what could have been a very explosive offense for Green Bay in check. And, you know, a lot of people, when I tell them I'm a coach, they think I coach sports teams, but I really don't. I could. I know I have the capability to do with all the knowledge I have of professional sports and how long I've been a fan. But I coach people in their life, in their business, in their relationships, and I coach them the same way that a professional coach on the sidelines would do. Basically, you know, looking at their lives, looking at the things that matter to them and what's important to them, and then giving them, you know, actions and plays to run. And, you know, my acronym on Instagram is I coach, you play. And if I coach you, you give me permission to give you those actions, to tell you what's getting in the way after listening to where you are and what's so for you. And, you know, so I take that on very seriously. I make that my main thing, you know, is making sure that I help other people win the games that they play. And, you know, whether you like games or whether you think games are just for children, you'd be totally misguided. You know, we play games all day, every day with our lives, with the careers that we choose, and, you know, in raising families. All of the games we play are incorporated in everything and every action that you take. So when you hear me say, you know, go win the games you play, you know, what I'm using is an acronym with the word win. You know, everybody likes to win, but for me, the acronym is what's important now. Doing what's important now in your daily lives and the actions you take, or sometimes actions that you stop taking that will, you know, hinder you from achieving desired results, is important now. So a lot has happened since last week. I'm using this podcast for multiple reasons. It's an opportunity for people like you to jump in with me, you know, spend, you know, 20, 30 minutes with a professional coach and really get some insights into what's important to you, what matters to you, and how to really turn things around in some cases, or move them in the direction which you wish to go. And, you know, me personally, I also have things that I want to accomplish, you know, so how I focus on doing that is I help a lot of people get what they want so that I can get what I want. And if you take that on as a challenge for yourself, like if you really want to accomplish things for yourself, then look at ways that you can make a difference for other people first, and to see what comes from that. I promise you, there's different results that get produced when your focus is not 100% on what's important to you. And if you take on that other people have important issues that they care about, if you take on that other people have problems that they need solved or challenges that they're facing, you're helping them get what they want, ultimately opens the door for you to get what you want. So I firmly believe that. I've taken it on as a mantra in my life and my business. And, if you ask any of the clients that I have, again, I can't tell you because of confidentiality, a lot of the things that they tell me, but they would probably share with you that, helping them get what they want is a big deal. So what I've done inside of this Jump In podcast is I've created an opportunity for all of you to jump in. I've said if you wanted to get questions answered, to hit me up on my Instagram, which is iCoachUPlay, all one word. And then the letters iCoach, the letter U, and then play on Instagram. You can send me a message. You can ask me questions, or you can even suggest a topic that you'd like for me to take on. And, in future episodes, I'll do that. One of the questions that people asked me during this week was, they're dealing with relationship issues, and part of it, some of them are married, some people were single. I've gotten different questions from different people, but the one that really struck out to me was the one that actually pulled a string for me personally as well. Was a question about what do you do in relationships, people that you love, people you cared about, and they're just not in your life anymore, even though you love them, even though you care about them, and you wanted that relationship to continue. And I'll share with you at the end of this particular podcast what my particular answer to that is for all those who asked that question, and for even those of you that did. You're going to be able to hear what my response to that is. But before we get to that, I'd just like to, give my personal feedback to the people who are following my journey and asking, how am I doing? What am I, how did I make out with the things that I promised in the last episode? If you go back and listen, you'll hear that I took on that this year is a year of transformation for me, a real transformation. And part of the biggest transformation is to take on and tackle my personal fitness, personal health, things that I've kind of neglected or, just been resigned about, kind of gave up on, thought, okay, I'm 57 years young, but at the same token, I'm not bad looking, but at the same time, I know I put on a lot more weight than I need. And I also want to be able to, go out there and do my thing, and not have to worry about, my knees or back issues or anything like, that, I've been fortunate not to have too many issues come up for me. Like I said, I'm fairly healthy. But at the same token, I know I want to improve. So what did I say I would do, and what did I actually accomplish? So what I said I would do last week was get myself scheduled for a physical exam. And what I actually did, scheduled myself for not just a physical exam, but also these two ocular devices that I normally wear, contacts and glasses. I've scheduled my eye exam as well. So those two things got accomplished this week, and I'm excited. By the end of the next 2 weeks, I'll have my my eyes checked and new vision, new contact lens prescription and glasses, and I also will have had a complete physical, which I'm really looking forward to, and just chipping away at those things that I know that medical professionals can advise me on. So, that got accomplished, and I'm moving on to the next week. What needs to happen for me this week is basically just, make sure I make those appointments that are scheduled. And I've done what I know I need to do to put those into existence. And for a lot of you, you make promises and then you wind up, giving up on those promises, or maybe you just fall short. One of the first things I'll tell you I had to deal with in being someone who wanted to be a person who, not just kept my word, because again, you're not always going to keep your word. There are things you're going to have to break promises on. But to be someone who actually honors his word, and there's a difference, to try and keep your word is like saying, I'm going to do something, and then you do it. And before long, if you make a lot of promises, if you're really out here in life, if you're really out here challenging yourself to be a part of a full life, you're making a lot of promises that you will not be able to keep. But one of the things that I've learned through my journey inside of making big promises and living a big life was that you're not going to always keep your promises. But what you can do is you can honor those promises. And the difference is, when you honor a promise, it means that if you know that you're not going to be able to keep what you said like you're not going to be able to do what you said, then it's up to you. The onus is on you to be in communication with whoever you made that promise to, or even if you didn't make it to someone, but you know that you put it out there in the world, right? Like I put out there in the world that I was going to schedule appointments. Guess what? There's nobody holding me accountable for me but me. I'm my own boss. I've been my own boss since 1998. So there's nobody that's supervising me, even though my kids pretend that they are running the show sometimes. But they actually do hold me to account for the things I say. And if you ever think that your kids aren't listening to you when they're in the back of the car, or if they're even listening to, like, they have listened to my podcast. They heard me make promises. They know when daddy says he's going to do something, they expect me to do it, and they're holding me to it. So I actually do appreciate having, what I call accountability buddies, which they are. But also, when you know that you've got big games that you're playing and things that are very important to you, then you might want to create structures that allow for you to be someone who can honor their promise and be in communication when you know that you're not going to be able to fulfill on it as soon. And the question comes up, well, how? I'm busy. I don't know if I have time for that. Well, guess what? The minute that you know that you're not going to keep a promise and you know it, that's the time to get on in communication. And how you do that is many different ways. But one of the things that I've shared with my clients and people who are really busy and struggling with time management is that that things are going to actually happen that you don't count on. There are emergencies that come up with some people, for a lot of people, that's a lot of times they call what they're dealing with emergencies, but in reality, they're not. They're things that they could have planned for, but they just didn't. And how I say that, and I can have confidence in saying that, is that life is always life, and life is always happening in the moment. But if you're someone who's, strategic about what you're doing and committed to really fulfilling on things that you say and holding your life up to a microscope and holding to a standard, then you're going to schedule times for things called breakdowns. You're going to actually schedule a time in your calendar, like an actual time, like an appointment, where you're going to be able to respond to things that you didn't really think were going to happen in that particular day or in that week. But you know that you have time in your calendar to start to deal with it. For instance, there are at least 2, maybe even 3 times, because I go for, a long day. For those of you that don't know, I am a night owl. I'm someone that spends maybe about 4 to 6 hours asleep, resting. And it's been that way since I've been a teenager, but even more so being someone that served in the military for many years, and the role that I played was at night and doing a lot of different, crazy things. My sleep schedule became very deprived. So I've gotten used to, only operating on, 4 to 6 hours of sleep each day, regardless of how exhausted I may be. And so that gives me a lot of time to focus on things that matter to me and actually put into my life. So, when I want to manage those things with integrity, and as I get older, I'm starting to realize that, I'm not reminding myself as sharply as I used to as I was younger. So I've got to put into existence, into my calendar, into my existing systems, points of reference. And again, one of those points of reference is breakdown times that I'm actually going to spend in different parts of the day dealing with the things that come up during that part of the day. So for instance, if my day starts as it normally does, now usually about 5 or 6 in the morning, I have from 5 till about noon, when I'm about to take a break for lunch, I have between 5 and noon, there's a break time where I'll spend between 12 and 1 or 1 and 2, depending on how late lunch goes. That time is set aside to, for breakdowns. And I'll make sure that in that time, between anything that happens from 5 all the way up till 12 noon or 1, depending on when I take my break, those are the things that I'm dealing with. Those are the callbacks that I'm making to people who may have left messages for me. That's when I'm actually dealing with, appointments that I might need to schedule. and other things that I put on the back burner if I need to send out, emails or other busy work. I'm using that first breakdown time to deal with all the issues that came up between 5 and noon. And then I'll have another breakdown schedule somewhere in the middle part of the day, somewhere around 4 or 5, because that's usually the ramp up period between my lunch and my dinner, and when I want to actually start to go out and start to, have some fun. So I'll make my times between 4 and 5 o'clock, or 5 and 6, depending on what I'm doing for the rest of that evening. That'll be my second breakdown time. And in that period, I'm dealing with the issues that came up between 12 and 3 or 12 and 4. And you can get the point. I might schedule one more depending on how my night's going to go before I go to bed, or before I'm actually set aside. I'll deal with things that I can deal with, like around 9 or 10, that are personal to me. So again, if I need to manage any kind of personal issues to myself, that's the time. Those kind of breakdowns are ones that get handled. And then the rest of my night is either I'm resting or I'm actually out doing some fun stuff, which probably be more the latter than the first thing. So just to give you a sense of how you can begin to manage your time and manage it with integrity, and be someone who actually may not keep their word, but you're actually going to honor the word. You honor your word by making sure that you're the one that's in communication when you know that you're not going to be able to do what it is that you said you were going to do by the time you said you were going to do it. So if you know a report's going to be late, you may know that, you might know that within a week. You might know before the deadline. You definitely know that it's not going to show up on time. The minute that you know that, then that's when you start to get in communication with the people who are counting on you to deliver. And it doesn't matter what it is or how big or small. The more that you can honor your word and honor the promises that you make to people, then their experience of you as someone who's reliable, who's count onable, someone who they can, really trust with the things that they can entrust you with, increases, and you become someone that like literally becomes their word, and they can, other people start to relate to you that way. And that was something that was big for me, because again, in my early career, one of the challenges I had to deal with was not being on time for most of the things that I needed to be at, or not showing up where I needed to be when I needed to be there. And I never really got what it was like until someone actually, who was coaching me, said to me, John, what do you think it's like for people to have to wait for you for the things that they need to do when you show up late? And it was like, what are you talking about? I mean, I showed up. They know I'm busy. I mean, they gave me, a lot of times people gave me a lot of grace. They knew I was coming late, and it became like a running joke. Like, oh yeah, John, he's gonna always be there. He's gonna be there, but he may not be there on time. And after a while, that became who I was to them. And over time, I never really looked at it like it was a problem for me. I never looked at it was like a problem for them, because when I showed up, trust me, I delivered. I was there for them. I made what needed to happen. Things worked around me. And, I'm proud of being that guy that people could count on for that. But what they couldn't count on was for me to be there at the time they said that we were going to need to be there. And again, me not really getting the impact of that was an eye-opening experience for someone who said that, their word mattered or integrity mattered. So I actually took that on. That was probably one of the first things in my, after, developing myself as a leader, that was a big deal to take that on, because you're talking about 10, 15, 20, 30 years of habit that needed to be broken. And again, I took it on just like I take on anything else, just like I'm about to take on these other promises that I have, which is to improve my health and to make sure that my life works for a long, long period of time. Now, that didn't happen by osmosis. It happened through actions that I needed to take, which was to start putting, things in my calendar, start to make myself more aware of the promises that I made and be more realistic about timeframes when I could deliver. And then the last piece, which was when I knew that I couldn't, really deliver on the time that I said or keep my word, I would be in communication, let folks know so that they didn't, they were still going to maybe be impacted, but they wouldn't be left with that, oh, he just didn't care, or he just didn't think that this was that important. And so that's what communication does. And so I took that on, and I'm taking it on now as a goal. And I invite all of you to take on as a goal that if you really want to accomplish the thing that you want or that you say are important to you, and that you want to be someone that people can really count on to deliver results or to be available when you say, then don't play the game of keeping your word. Do as much as you can. I mean, again, it's important to, if you say you're going to do something, to deliver on that, do that, work that, play that game full out. But when you know that you're not going to fulfill on something, and you know that it's falling short, or the clock is ticking, and you're looking that you're not going to deliver when you say, then get in communication with the people who you promised that to, and allow for them to experience you as someone who honors their word. So that's the biggest thing that I want to, really share with you guys, and how that shows up in all aspects of my life. For me, I spend a lot of time working with clients, helping them achieve desired results. They expect me to be available when their call comes through, or they'll make sure, like, they're literally, if I told them their time is, 8:30 on a Wednesday, guess what? There's nothing else happening between 8:30 and the time their call ends. Like, that's their time, and they can count on it. But if they need to make that change, they're in communication with me because they know how valuable my time is, and they also know how important their time is to me, because they know that was put into existence for them and made clear that nobody else is getting that time from them. And that shows up in multiple ways as a count onable thing that people enjoy and they appreciate. There's other things that I could tell you about that, but what difference does that make if you're not someone who actually does anything with what it is that you learn? I know that everything that I have and everything that I'm, aspiring to achieve comes because I and others around me or involved with me help to make that happen through our actions or performance, or actually taking out actions that hindered our performance. Those are the biggest things that I will always, tell you. Like, at the end of the day, I've gotten into a game called performance, and I learned that, there's a whole world, okay? There's a whole world where performance matters. And, if you look out, if you're like me, a sports fan, performance matters every time the game starts. From the first whistle or the first pitch to the end of the game, performance matters. How you perform determines what the outcome is going to be. So you need to know that if you're looking to achieve desired results, and I'll speak more about, how people can do that on a regular, consistent basis. But if you're the type of person who really does matter to you, that you achieve desired results, not just any results, but your desired results, okay? Then you want to start to focus a lot of your time and your attention on whether or not you are actually in performance around those desired results, or those, quoted desired results. And there's a difference between actual performance and things that people will say to themselves they're in performance around. Like, for instance, if you're telling me that you want to be someone who loses, let's say, 10 pounds in the next 6 months, right? But the actions you take to lose those 10, now, how do you lose weight? Everyone knows this. It's a very simple strategy. However, most people do not, seem to get this down, including myself, is you eat less, exercise more. That's it. There's no super massive, formula. Eat less, exercise more. You will lose weight, okay? Now, everyone knows that. but knowing it makes no difference, right? You know that that's how to lose weight, but that doesn't matter unless you take some action towards eating less or some action towards working out or eat less, exercise more. You got to take some actions in either one or both of those areas in order for you to start to see the desired result, which is to lose 10 pounds in 6 months, right? If that's the goal you set for yourself. Now, as simple as that sounds, there are many people who believe at the end of the 6 months, they're sitting there like, oh my God, I committed to this goal of losing these 10 pounds, but I'm still not there. I haven't lost none. I've actually gained more weight. How is that possible? Well, what were the actions that you took? And so again, you have to begin to look to see whether the actions you took were consistent with achieving that desired result, losing 10 pounds in 6 months. And what were the actions you may have taken that could, what I call, mask the performance of achieving your desired results. Now you pretended that those were the goals that you wanted, that was the goal you wanted to achieve. But what happened is the actions you took were consistent with someone who masked their performance. Maybe you looked up different gyms in the area to see which one was closer to you so that you could schedule time to actually go join it. But notice that looking up a gym and scheduling time to join a gym and actually choosing a gym doesn't necessarily help you to achieve the desired result of losing 10 pounds. Because if that's all the actions you took consistent with that goal, guess what? Those 10 pounds are still with you 6 months from now because all you did was things that were, in a sense, masking the performance. What it actually needed to happen to be in performance was you actually getting that gym selected, going, registering yourself, and actually showing up each and every week for a scheduled time to actually put yourself either in a fitness training program or some exercise regimen that's actually going to help you to exercise more, move your bones, and get those muscles working. Now, same thing, eating less. If I want to eat less, it means, okay, maybe I eat less, but eating less chips and eating less cookies and eating less crackers and no proteins, no fats, no good fats, those are the things that are not going to improve my health situation. And I know this. But notice that I put those things in existence. Maybe I eat one less bag of chips. What does that do? I'm still eating chips. I'm still doing things that are inconsistent with achieving my desired result. So I think that that's a clear message for folks. I think it's a very consistent message. And I think that if you take this on inside of this particular conversation, right, that if you want to achieve your desired results, your job is to be in performance around those actions that are consistent with achieving the desired results and eliminating the actions that are inconsistent with those achieving those desired results. So I'm looking forward to you all, jumping in our next episode and really giving me more things to chew on and more topics that I can feed back to you. And like I said, when I started the broadcast, I'm going to make sure that I share with you all, some of the things that I've had to deal with inside of, relationships that I've had to that didn't work out so much, and things that were important to me, people that were important to me, that just didn't that are no longer a part of my world, or they're just not a part of my daily experience. And again, as much as I love those people, I had to do what I needed to do to make sure that my life continued to move. And so what I invite all of you to take on is that, look, relationships are not easy and by any means whatsoever. And if you're committed to having important relationships work for you, and making sure that they are strong and that, they're providing joy, they're providing peace, they're providing, sustainability, depending on what it is that's important to you. You got to make sure that you choose wisely. Choose the people who are a part of your circle wisely, and make sure that those people are aligned with the person that you choose to be. If you choose to be someone who's committed to, honoring your word, or being someone who's count onable or can be trusted, then it comes down to you looking to surround yourself with that group of people and making sure that they know that, that matters to you. That's what's important to you. And, hopefully as they're, aligned with the things that you're aligned with, you can start to find commonality and common ground to operate inside of. So as I wrap up this episode of the Jump In Podcast, I'm your coach, John Thomas. I'm really excited to continue to share this message with you each and every week. I'm going to be here sharing. And again, if you want to jump in, send us your contact information. You can reach me at iCoach on Instagram. iCoach You Play, all one word, the letter U, not YOU, but iCoach You Play at Instagram. Or you can, send an email to JAYTPFS, the number 1 at gmail.com, and I'll respond to you to let you know if your question is going to be, or when it's going to be aired on a future episode. We'll try to get to as many as we can, and hopefully as you guys, engage in this communication and, share it. I hope you like what I've shared with you today, and, like, subscribe, comment. Please do take the time to listen on any of the podcast channels. You can find us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts. We're located there. Just look for Jump In with Coach John Thomas, and this podcast will be available to you for free, and you'll be able to engage with us there, and do leave comments and do share with your friends. So I want to thank you again for letting me come into your life for the next 30 minutes, for the last 30 minutes, and hopefully you'll join us again for the next episode. Thank you.